So here we are above the Anguille Lakes in the Arfak Mountains. So in this area with only very small shrubs, we are now at about 2,000, almost 300 meters above sea level. So it's very windy, of course, not now, but so the vegetation is quite dense. And here there are very interesting plants. So we see the bright pink flower, which the inflorescence belongs to an orchid, and most probably one of the so many Dendrobium species, because about 2,000 orchid species in New Guinea, and probably some hundred of simply the genus Dendrobium. But this one has very, very long peduncle and a very long flowering part of the inflorescence. Something interesting here, also with, oh yes, I see here, bright yellow flowers, and actually, due to the asymmetric shape of the flower, I think this can be a Scaevola, because the genus Scaevola is mostly developed in New Guinea and other Pacific islands. I'm just surprised because the leaves are opposite, and I did not think they could be opposite in Scaevola, but the shape of the flower is very Scaevola-like, but usually they are pink or white or pink or blue, but these are pure yellow, perfectly growing plagiotropic shrub. We see here the perfectly zygomorphic flower, I mean totally not at all regular, not at all circular, but we see that all the lobes of the petals are downward oriented. It's the case for all the flowers, we can see this clearly. So this is quite characteristic of the genus Scaevola. And the design is perfect with the brown base and the perfectly yellow parts of the petals, which are three petals like this and bright yellow. And also, I see here another fern, which is obviously a Dipteris. It looks like the common Dipteris conjugata we see in most tropical mountains of Asia and Pacific, but this one has very small fronds, the same shape. Of course, we can say it's because it's very high in altitude, but actually, I think because there are few species, but not only 2 species in Dipteris, so it's most probably another species of this beautiful Dipteris. Here, in these parts which have been partly destroyed, we see, of course, the bracken fern, which is everywhere, and it's always a problem because the rhizomes are so well growing and so dense, so it's very difficult for regeneration of the other species to install next soil covered by this bracken fern, but some species are perfectly growing, and some are showy, like this melastome, a member of the Melastomataceae. But there are quite many species in this genus, mostly in New Guinea. Some also can be found in Borneo, but well diversified in New Guinea. And we see the very thick leaves. They are bullate and also with the characteristic venation of the Melastomataceae, and the terminal inflorescence with very beautiful pink flowers. We see so the flowers with the light pink petals and the bright yellow stamens, the group of Melastomataceae with 5 petals, and monomorphic stamens are only one type of stamens, contrary to some other Melastomataceae. Perfectly thriving here, we see here, for instance, a branch with many flowers open at the same time today. There is a good day for anthesis of these flowers. We see perfectly the semicircle of the stamens just around the center, and we see that the fruits will become erect capsular fruits. We see they are not yet ripe. They could look like a berry, but actually, when they are totally mature, they will become capsular fruits. But now we see the ovary is pink and a little bit older, drying a little bit with all the remaining parts of the calyx at the top, and finally they will become dry. So it's and when I see the flower buds also, the pink color is incredible. It's totally the Indian pink color. One more time, a very bright pink flowers in these mountains. We clearly see this half circle of the monomorphic stamens. All are similar, but so elegantly distributed. And in the middle, we see the pistil recurved at the top and all the bright yellow anthers of the stamens. So we clearly see the maturing fruits, the dark pink ovary. We still see the pistil here, and we see the teeth of the calyx. So the inferior ovary in Melastomataceae, this is called hypanthium because it is totally under the corolla on the calyx, and it is very inflated, so it's a quite special structure of inferior ovary, hypanthium. The very thick Papyraceous leaves, resisting to the very windy area, because now there is not much wind, but of course sometimes it's very windy and it's thick and bullate, so it probably very well resist to this quite difficult climate. So beautiful vines, characteristic of Melastomataceae, and the young leaves are covered with hairs protecting them from strong sunlight, because also we should not forget that at this altitude there are many more UV lights. So these shrubs totally invading the area due to the narrow leaves, the alternate leaves. It's a member of a Leptospermoideae, one of the 2 subfamilies of Myrtaceae. Actually, we see the flowers, white petals, and this is probably one of the Beckea species which are always invading the poor areas with a very depauperate soil. It's the case here, of course, with the rain there is nothing remaining, and these Beckea are very happy in these poor soils, and growing, but never taller than about 3 meters. And after, probably they die. But very elegant to see all these stems reclining at the end, because we see final growth is always bending down like this. So stems are reddish, red. So when we look closely like this, it's actually a quite elegant plant. We see the tiny flowers all along the stems. Actually, when I look more closely at these young stems, I see that the leaves are not at all alternate, but perfectly opposite, and we see branches which are opposite ramification with opposite stems originating from the axil of the opposite leaves. Actually, these shrubby Melastomataceae are most probably Poikilogynae arfacensis, well named if it's endemic of this area. But we have to know that many species are named arfacensis because they were first discovered in Arfak Mountains, but it doesn't mean that it is only the species only in Arfak Mountains. It was first discovered here because it was relatively easy access in the 19th century, and many are also in other mountains of New Guinea, but some are totally endemic of Arfak Mountains. This small shrub among the grasses and the bracken ferns actually is another species of the Melastomataceae family. It has very beautiful, bright, white flowers. There are not so many genera of erect shrubby Melastomataceae, so it could be maybe the genus Melastoma or another species of Poikilogynae, or maybe somebody else. But what is different in this species is that the fruit is really a berry, a black fleshy berry. So it's really different from the other big Poikilogynae. So we see clearly the bright white flowers with 5 petals on the yellow stamens. We see it's a congested inflorescence. Here we see the ovary, the hypanthium, with the teeth of the calyx on the flower, the corolla bud. And it's very cute with the young brown leaves and the shape, the global shape. It's a globular structure. So here, even if we think at first sight that it's only the bracken fern on the Beckea, actually when we look more closely, we see some wonderful creatures. Here we clearly see the spherical blackish, dark blue blackish berries with keeping the teeth of the calyx at the top. This is a group of the berry-fruited Melastomataceae. We see another Melastomataceae here. It is a little bit similar to the first big pink one, which is probably Poikilogynae arfacensis. So probably it's another species of Poikilogynae, but this one has a shorter internodes, much smaller leaves, and the inflorescence is much more compact than in the other one. So, and the flower is more congested. So probably it's still another, a third species of Melastomataceae in this area. The young leaves are very beautiful, very dark purple. Oh yes, and when I see a young individual, we clearly see the color and the texture of the leaves. Ah yes, it's not so hard. This species has very soft leaves, dark green with a beautiful impressed vines and velvety velvety structure due to the hairs, and the reverse, the abaxial side, the underside of the leaves is a beautifully purple colored, especially along the prominent exserted vines. So the architecture of the venation is characteristic of Melastomataceae, but in this species it is especially beautiful. There is another erect shrub moving with the wind. When we see like these leaves, it could look like Ericacea, like Myrtaceae, like many different people. But actually, when we look more closely, these hanging leaves, pendant leaves, we see that there are also 3 vines on the flower itself, with the 5 petals, 5 white petals, really is characteristic of the Melastomataceae. So this is still another totally different species of Melastomataceae. I have no idea at all concerning the genus, because it is so different from the other ones. So very strange plant, but Melastomataceae. I don't know at all who it could be. It has erect stems with congested leaves along the stems, and the terminal and also lateral inflorescence, which have tiny flowers, yellow flowers. From here I cannot say, because I cannot access directly, I cannot say at all which family it could be, but it is a very strange creature. So we see this shrub with totally bullate leaves, very rigid and totally bullate leaves. These leaves are opposite. We clearly see here they are opposite, or pseudoverticillate by 4. So totally congested along the stem. And inflorescence, here we see the small flowers, but they are open. Some flowers are open, or maybe, oh yes, here, flowers are perfectly open. It's tiny flowers, but I think, when I see this, I think it's the flowers of a Myrtaceae. Most probably this is a member of Myrtaceae, but of course I'll check more carefully later. But these terminal inflorescence with so many stamens in the small flowers probably are characteristic of Myrtaceae. But of course it should need a binocular lens to see more precisely, but yes, on this one I can see clearly all the stamens. So we clearly see the strongly bullate leaves, very rigid, very bullate under, yes, we see the vines under like this. We see clearly they are very often verticillate or pseudo-verticillate by 4. We see 4, 4, 4. and then the young leaves are more erect, but they are very rigid and probably very well protected against the wind, the cold temperature, and the strong UV light. So here, among the dead Lycopodium, erect Lycopodium, we see a Nepenthes with the beautiful urn-shaped leaf, the pitcher. We see the pitcher, which is yellow with dark purple spots, and the leaves themselves are totally brown leaves, and we see all the pitchers with water inside, and this part is totally erect, not covering, not protecting the urnal, the pitcher, some water inside, so probably insects are digested. Oh, and here another creature, oh, a prayer mantis, on the young leaf of the Nepenthes is lying a prayer mantis, which has a very strange head. Ooh, oh, she's not happy. Oh, mademoiselle, but she's so beautiful. Oh, okay, so life is everywhere in this area. The Nepenthes is growing here. Also, it's a beautiful clump of the Nepenthes, always with brown leaves, even in protected areas. The leaves are thick, of course, but the brown color is very beautiful. C'est superbe d'ici. So this moss is quite strange because it is totally erect, not branched in the aerial part, totally erect, and it looks a little bit like a miniature Lycopodium, but actually it is a moss and not at all a Lycopodium. We know, of course, many plants with young red or pink leaves, but so bright red is not at all common. It's brighter than most red flowers, because the anthocyanins, which are characteristic of the red color, are in some way a very good protection against UV light. And here at 2,300 meters above sea level, UV lights are very strong. This Myrmecodia actually has a huge tuber, swollen, and it is a grayish metallic gray. And contrary to some other species, this one has no stem at all above the tuber. The structure of the tuber is very special. It's between a stem and a root on the collar part. It's very special because developing as soon as the seed is germinating. So very often it's a hypocotyl, the part of the stem just below the cotyledons. So this is one thing, but it has no erect stem. We see that the leaves emerge directly from the top of the tuber. Another species of Nepenthes, which has more usual narrower leaves on the bright green, so not the same wide leaves as the other one, which are brown. This one is more usual green, but what's interesting is to see the quite a big emerging inflorescence. All the Nepenthes have inflorescence like this, but this one is big compared to the size of the leaves, and also the flowers are very, very congested. So we see at the top the yellow flowers and the brown decaying ones just below. Of course, there are male and female individuals in Nepenthes, so from here I cannot see if it's male or female inflorescence. Here I follow a small, very small water course at the top of the Anguille Lakes, and it's lined by these erect things looking like grasses, but when we see inflorescence, actually it is more obviously a sedge, a member of the Cyperaceae family, but just lining the small water course. And here we see the table shrubs, very beautifully shaped, and probably, yes, it is one of these Myrtaceus shrub, but it's really like a plateau, and it's elegantly displayed, totally plagiotropic stems displaying the leaves horizontally, and we see the small white flowers. It seems actually that there are different species, not at all only one species. And this one is really growing. We see all the ramification, totally like a fan, a global fan structure with all the white flowers at the top of the plateau. So there are different species of these Myrtaceae here. So it's a very special environment at 2,300 meters above sea level on a very sandy soil. That's why there is a very specific flora here. So here we clearly see this plateau, which is more than 2 meters in diameter, and we see the brown leaves because it's a young leaves, and after they turn brownish green, and all the surface is covered by the small whitish yellow flowers, a little bit yellowish, so totally displayed just above the foliage of this Myrtaceus shrub. So many Myrtaceae are a little bit plagiotropic like this, but this one is absolutely a perfect plateau, and all the branches arising from about 50 centimeters above the soil. We see clearly the small flowers with the 5 petals. Elles sont adorables. All the leaves are brown, a little bit dark green for the older ones, but when we turn back, the other side, the lower side, the abaxial of the leaves is pure green. So actually, on the upper surface, receiving the full sunlight, the leaves become brown, rich in anthocyanins, probably a good protection against the strong UV light under surface. Of course, there is no light at all, so they can remain pure green. Here is a population of a Lycopodium. It has creeping stem all along the ground, and from the stem are emerging these erect structure which really look like small Christmas trees, because its ramification and all the last parts of the ramification are bending down, so it's really like a miniature Christmas tree, but it's very very beautiful, and we clearly see that these erect stems are emerging from the creeping stems, which has roots fixing it to the ground, so it is growing and growing like this. It's why Lycopodium are potentially immortal, and when we know that they were quite similar in the Devonian times, 350 million years ago, if they could move through the modification of the continents, and if climate was favorable in some parts, because they can move everywhere like this, so maybe these Lycopodium are creatures living since something like 300 million years. So of course, most probably it's not the case, but potentially they are potentially immortal, because growing always horizontally and with new root systems and moving very fast everywhere. So we clearly see these stems growing at the surface of the ground and moving. On this one, we clearly see the creeping stem with brown, golden, reduced leaves, and emerging from the axils, or pseudoaxils, because it's a Lycopodium, so it's a dichotomous branching, but actually it's exactly the same as if it was an axillary branching. So it means that clearly when people say that dichotomous branching is very primitive or not adaptive, when we see that the dichotomous branching, when it's unequal, is totally similar to the axillary branching. So here we see the erect Lycopodium here, and when we follow, here I see the fertile ending part of each lateral stem of this Lycopodium. We see that actually the leafy scales are shorter, and at the end we see that it's a totally congested structure, and in the axil of each of these leaves there are the sexual structure, so the sporangia allowing reproduction. Dicranopteris, this one is a small species, and it's not invading all the surfaces, same as some much bigger species of Dicranopteris, which are really invasive plants. No, this one is okay. It has some parts, it's creeping also, but a mix of Lycopodium, the Dicranopteris, the erect shrubs, which are Myrtaceous shrubs. So here it's a good Dicranopteris, good in the sense it's not invading and blocking all the other plant installation. This small plant with bright blue-violet flowers actually is a Burmania, and Burmaniaceae are quite close to orchids, to Orchidaceae, but we see actually the characteristic long winged ovary, which is the most decorative part of the plant. It is in three parts and totally winged with wings which are light purple. It's very, very beautiful. So the inflorescence emerges from this base with rosetted, pointed leaves, quite few leaves, and many Burmaniaceae are growing totally in relation with fungi. It's a myrmecotrophic plant for most species, so and very often growing in very poor soil. We can see here it's growing in the sand, and it's a habitat of many Burmania species. The flowers of this Burmania are open at Anthesis, so it's much more developed than the other one. And here it's interesting because we clearly see each flower has a three-winged ovary. We see the whitish, bluish white wings of the ovary and the flower at the top of each ovary. And we see the small violet-purple bracts on the flower in the axil of each bract. We see the yellow stamens, the bright yellow stamens at the top of the flower, but the most attractive part of the plant is obviously the ovary. So here we see this erect herb, which is very spiny at the top, and which really looks like sage cyperacea. Here we clearly see the inflorescence of a member of a Cyperaceae. I don't know which genus, of course, but Cyperaceae, and we see the stamens here, all the yellow stamens emerging from the brown bracts just underlying them. This is a small plant. Actually, when I see the leaf arrangement, which is a perfectly disticus leaf arrangement, is a characteristic of Iridaceae, and this is maybe the genus Libercia, because Libercia is a genus of southern hemisphere, and there are some small species, and we clearly see the beautifully shaped flower with the three pure white petals and the pistil in the middle, but the leaf arrangement is incredibly beautiful, and also we see that each leaf is lined by a purple line, so everything is elegant in this plant. This Nepenthes with narrow leaves has beautiful pictures, very long pictures in this species, but all the leaves are covered by a black fungus in the middle, along the midrib, but probably it's not at all harmful for the plant because we see it's perfectly growing with the pictures on each leaf and a terminal inflorescence. And when we look at the inflorescence, we see clearly the brown, purple-brown elements, which are the corolla element, and in the middle, emerging a structure. I've not the good glasses for that, but I think that this is a structure emerging with a kind of little hat as the congested stamens in a circle at the top of a column in this Nepenthes.
On voit des espèces de sépales.
Oui, des trucs marrons. Et c'est des étamines a priori, hein, c'est pas un pistil, hein, le truc au sommet.
Il semble que c'est des étamines.
Oui, il me semble aussi, mais ce sera très facile à vérifier. The bright yellow circles the peristome at the mouth, at the opening of the picture. It's very beautiful because really it's lemon yellow and the interior is totally white. Here we are in the mossy forest at 2,300 meters above sea level. Mossy forest covered with mosses, covered with orchids everywhere, different kind of orchids in gross habits, of course. And here, special creature, because we see the long branches with the Lycopodium-like leaves, which are a kind of needle leaves on hanging stems, and at the top of the trunk of the main stem, totally a metamorphosis, and we see that the stems are erect with very, very narrow and short leaves. It looks not at all like the same plant when we see that. I think it's a Dacrydium. It's of course a conifer, one of these conifers from southern hemisphere. I think about a Dacrydium, but the metamorphosis is really, really spectacular in this species. So probably it doesn't become a too big tree because it is already giving the adult foliage. But so strange to see weeping, totally weeping juvenile branches like this, and erect branches with short leaves. When I look at this architecture, an articulated architecture, absolutely incredible. What can it be? Actually, I think most probably it's a conifer with the scale leaves totally fixed together, creating only one structure with only the top part with teeth. And from the middle, the stem is still growing. So I think it's so beautiful architecture. I've never seen a plant like this, and so probably it's one of these austral conifer, maybe a group of the Taxaceae, maybe because it's not a Podocarpus. It's not. We see the color, grayish color on the underside. We see the main vine, which is actually also the design of the stem in the middle of the two parts. So probably it's a member of the Taxaceae. And so strange plant. I know there is Papua cedrus, for instance, in New Guinea, but I think it's totally somebody else. It's probably a tree because we see it's erect, and if it's a conifer, probably it becomes one of the big trees of this forest. But at this stage, the architecture is incredible. So many orchids everywhere. So this one has totally hanging stems with disticus leaves and all the new stems emerging at the top. So perfect creature. All mosses also are so elegant, creeping along the trunk. So everything is beautiful. It's so simple to say that everything is beautiful. I'm very surprised to see just growing out of the soil Myrmecodia, because usually Myrmecodia are epiphytic, but actually on this totally naked, eroded soil and very poor, the conditions are almost the same as on the branches of the trees. And anyway, this Myrmecodia is very happy here, because when we see the size of the tuber, it's really a huge size. So we see the leaves at the top, so most probably this is a Myrmecodia arafacensis. It's characteristic by different emergence on the tuber, but maybe because it is underground, and all the spiny structure are most probably modified roots which are acting like spines, protecting probably from some animals. And I can see the ants, and probably if I move a little bit, yes, we see here in this species it's black ants. Sometimes it's other species we did see red ants, but these are black ants. And here we see the stem, congested stem, and the flowers, of course, will appear along the stem in the axil of the old leaves. And after, most usually, the ants are dispersing the seeds of the Myrmecodia, and dispersing because just keeping some parts of the berry and also some periphery of the seed, and after releasing seed on the other branches of the trees. But unfortunately, just here I see a small fruit, a white fruit. On the Myrmecodia have always small fruits, whitish like this, and when ripe, the ants take out the seeds and disperse them, because they keep some caruncula, I don't remember, which is a structure interesting with lipids and sugars. So we see the spiny emergence, yellowish green, which are most probably roots modified in spines, but not a little bit aggressive, but not very aggressive spines in this species. Another Myrmecodia growing on the soil. But this one, we can see the size is really a huge size. Difficult to know if it's very old. I don't know the growth rate of these plants. I don't know if it's 10 years or maybe 50 years or more. I don't know. But obviously, probably not less than 10 or 20 years. So here in the mossy forest, we see mosses everywhere, many orange mosses on the ground. And here this plant with a very beautiful green structure, light green, because many plants here have very small leaves and grayish. But here it's totally bright green, but actually it's not leaves, it's stems, totally flattened stems. It's a Phyllocladus, the genus Phyllocladus, which is characteristic of southern hemisphere, quite few species, but different species in New Zealand, and also we can find in Tasmania, and in New Guinea, of course, even in Borneo. But here it's this species, we see the very leaf-like structure, which is dentate exactly like a leaf, and the venation also, it's a pinnate venation, so it's exactly like a leaf. simply, Phyllocladus is a conifer and it produces small cones, and the small cones are at the periphery of each indentation. Actually, the small cones will be at the periphery of this structure, but now we don't see them. But so here we see these conifers from southern hemisphere are very strange, either Podocarpus or Phyllocladus or Dacrydium. It really looks like a flower of a rhododendron, so maybe it's a small species of rhododendron, of erect rhododendron, everywhere around here. So it's a characteristic forest of conifer, Ericacea, with a rhododendron, Myrtacea. So we could spend a long time here because we did see also many Melastomataceae. In this mossy forest, everything is extravagant. And the mosses, for instance, we see this moss. I've never seen this kind of architecture. I know nothing about mosses, but I've seen quite often. So this branching pattern, totally horizontal like this. I've never seen this, and we see only at the top there are tiny leaves crowded at the top, and the stems become older and keep this very plagiotropic structure. So it's everywhere. Mosses are surprising, but all the plants are extravagant in this mossy forest. So this tiny creature actually has a beautiful small flower. Or when I see the opening, the mouth opening, it is a bright dark pink, and it's opening the mouth with some teeth, and it's a totally urceolate, totally bell-shaped, hanging. So no doubt it is still a member of Ericaceae, and most probably this is one of the many Vaccinium species that we can observe in New Guinea. So this is a very small species just emerging from the mossy carpet of the floor. Ah oui, il y a un petit truc aussi là. This conifer, because here, two side by side, the Phyllocladus here, and this one is most probably a Dacrydium with erect stems. Maybe the juvenile are totally different or much more Lycopodium-like. Another small orchid is probably another Dendrobium species, but this one is very beautiful because we see the petals are yellow and orange, and the ovary is a bright red. We see the bright red ovary just at the base. So it's a mix of color which is very, very strange. So this shrub has a very congested leaf. The young leaves are red, and we see yellow flowers with many stamens. And actually, when I look at the leaves, they are opposite, so it's incredible, but I think it is a Hypericum. But I could not imagine that a Hypericum could be like this, but due to the many stamens and the petals around, so I could not imagine that Hypericum could be like this. So here in these twin lakes in Anguille, it's incredible what we see. Ah, il y a un petit myrmécodia à tes pieds, t'as vu? Ah oui, ça c'est une éricacée. Of course. Oh là là, attends, la couleur. Attends, tu vois ce que je vois?
Non, mais c'est
Waouh!
d'une douceur cette
Oh
couleur.
là 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 là.
Plus intéressant qu'un rose tendre encore.
It is another species of Ericacea family, and this I don't know, but maybe Vaccinium or maybe a Gaulteria, because there are in this forest of New Guinea different species, of course, in these groups, especially above 1,500 meters. And here, 2,300, it is really the home for Ericacea. When I look at this, I can just say it's very beautiful, but otherwise, I have no idea at all about the family. It has alternate leaves, and these flowers are not tubular all. And yes, because I look at the base, no, they are not. No, not fused at the base, because otherwise I could think it could be a Myrcinaceae, a Primulacea, but I don't think so at all. But there are many austral families. Also, we see all the stamens, a kind of beak in the center of the flower. So again, a very soft color. This is a so soft yellow, so soft. So here it could look, this tree, like a Casuarina, for instance, but when we look more closely, we see it's a conifer, and it is obviously a Dacrydium. And what is incredible is that we can see on the adult stems the juvenile foliage looking like a Lycopodium, the juvenile foliage appearing again on these adult stems. So it's so strange to see these Lycopodium-like stems on the adult stems of the ant. This is occurring on many stems at the top. We see the erect stem here, typically adult, same as all the other, with tiny congested leaves, and the juvenile foliage with hanging stems like this. Along this small tree, we see the yellow stem of what is a Lycopodium, a climbing Lycopodium, same group probably as Lycopodium casuarinoides, but it's not casuarinoides. And you will see the very long whipping secondary branches, even if it's a dichotomous. Of course, it's a not equal dichotomy, and we see the sprays, it's really sprays, translucent sprays of the photosynthetic stems, and probably when the sexuality will appear, it will appear from the base of these stems. This Myrmecodia is a huge individual, and we see at the top the stem is very thick, very wide diameter, so it's quite strange, because in the small ones the stem is not very big, but after what happens, because the stem is never high, so it's not absorbed by the structure, so it's not so simple. So probably the stem is progressively growing above the ground when the tuber is growing bigger and bigger, but it's a little bit strange to see small ones and big ones with always a small stem at the top. So its only explication can be that the stem grows very slowly, because all the leaves have a very short internodes and are growing upward due to the growth of the basal part. So here we see side by side two orchids. This one is a dendrobium with the orange and yellow flowers here, but another one is creeping on the forest floor, and it has the flowers which are exactly the same color, but the shape is totally different. This one has a tubular flower, the base is bright orange red, and the top of the petals is yellow. It looks exactly like a flower of Ericacea and not at all like a flower of orchid. But I know there are some genera in New Guinea of orchid with a very Ericaceous-like flower, except that we see that there is a kind of emergence at the base of the corolla, which is a characteristic of the asymmetric flower of an orchid. But anyway, it's really mimetic of the Ericacea, while this one also is strange, but is more usual orchid-like. In 1 square meter, 3 totally different orchids are growing just behind the huge Myrmecodia. The growth habit is incredible. It is creeping, sympodially creeping, so one leaf and then cataphyls with internodes and only cataphyls. So it is emerging like this all around the base. So we see that the life is absolutely everywhere in these Arfak mountains. Here in this high altitude savanna, among all the grasses, the sedges, the ferns, lycopods, and all the angiosperms, the Myrtaceae, the Ericaceae, so all this life. Here I see another rhododendron, pure white rhododendron, a very small creature, but it has huge flowers. It's strange because there are very, very few leaves with a lot of flowers. The shape is absolutely perfect. It's a circular crown, and the peduncle of each flower is a dark red. It's a perfect contrast with the 4 leaves, which are just under the flower. So white, dark red, and green. It's absolutely perfect. Here in this savanna, we see the Nepenthes with the inflorescence everywhere emerging from the small Myrtaceae, and here also emerging from the Myrtaceae and the Nepenthes and the orchids, another rhododendron species which has light pink flowers. We see the leaves which are pseudo-verticillate by 3 or 4, so it's a groups of leaves, which are successive along the stem with a long internode with nothing in the internode. And at the top of the last leaves, we see these so perfect flowers of this rhododendron. We see all the stems are flowering. We see the old flowers here, the dry capsular fruits, very pointed capsular fruits on the flowers. So all of these Virrea rhododendron are really characteristic of New Guinea. And it's incredible to see them everywhere. And this world here, everybody, rhododendron, myrtaceae, nepenthes everywhere. And all the other plants, orchids everywhere, of course. So every square centimeter is a planet. So we see another species of Lycopodium creeping on the forest floor, and this one, yes, it's not fixed here, and we see that all of these upward stems are ending in a curve. On this curve, actually, the strobilus, so all these stems are ending in strobili with the sporangia, which will be releasing the spores. So it's growing like this also. But what is quite strange is that here I see another type of stem, an erect stem, very different from the other ones, which remain very horizontally growing and very sexually with the strobili. And this one is an erect stem. So it seems it's able, this Lycopodium, to have two different parts of stem, and both of them produce the terminal strobili. Here again we see emerging a small erect one close to all the other ones. Actually, it's not so common at all to see two types of branching like this in Lycopodium. So once again, when people say that in evolutionary terms to be dichotomous is not a good solution, here we see clearly that through dichotomy it can have many different types of stem and ramifications. So actually we can understand why during the primary era, the Devonian Carboniferous times, the Lycophytes, all this group of plants were very successful. Of course, among the fossils we can find some of these forms, but probably that among the small species it was a very high diversity of growth habits. But now we still see a high diversification in this Lycopodium between creeping, climbing, epiphytic. So all the way of life are existing in the Lycopodium. So this shrub actually is obviously an Ericacea, another species. So it has adult leaves which are dark green, but what is incredible is the young leaves emerging exactly like flowers, emerging above the green leaves. And again, the red color rich in anthocyane is probably a good protection against the UV ultraviolet light here in mountain. So here, actually, beside the young leaves, we see the inflorescence with, wow, so beautiful, greenish, wow, green inside, yellow, orange outside, the bell-shaped hanging flowers of Ericacea, of course, probably a vaccinium.
Orgulteria, but it's so beautiful to see the dark red carmine sepals and totally translucent, because the corolla is really translucent, yellowish, orange. So this small shrub is elegant both for young leaves and the flowers. In this orchid, it's strange because actually the peduncle is bright orange, but we know that in orchid the peduncle actually is the ovary. So what seems to be a peduncle of the flower connecting the flower to the stem is the ovary, and at the base of the corolla there is a small spore, recurved spore, and we see the flower totally open like this. So the structure is quite strange. So here is obviously an orchid, but so strange because we see a very long stem, bright yellow, and just one leaf at the end, and another structure in the middle, which will be maybe later a flower. So all are emerging from a common base. So it's really like a fishing rods, just emerging out of the tuft. So I know very badly orchids, of course, but I did never see an orchid with this growth habit like this, a stem with absolutely nothing, like a long petiole, but actually, since another thing is here, it is a stem and not a petiole. So the terrestrial orchids here in the Angi Mountains, in the Arfak area, terrestrial orchids are very strange. I think that most probably the structure in the middle is a bract protecting a flower. I think so, but we don't see the flowers, but probably they will emerge from here. This rhododendron has really huge white flowers, much bigger than the other one we did see before, and even the tube. The tube is very wide, and the corolla is white, but it has a small pink dots inside the corolla. But I think I did never see a rhododendron with so huge flowers. These Virreya rhododendron are very, very strange. And we see the pistil here, the yellowish pistil with the style which is dark pink. And so is it? Oh yes, it has a smell, good smell of white flower. I did not know that rhododendron could have a good smell. So flowers are a little bit old, but anyway, I could not imagine this size of flower in a rhododendron. So emerging from the soil among the other shrubs. I did see the leaves looking like a grass, but the flowers are not at all the flowers of a grass. So actually, it is a member of Zingiberaceae, it's a ginger, and it is the genus Ridelia. We know that Ridelia are gingers which are characteristic of New Guinea. There are many species, maybe 80 species or something like that, very poorly known, few collects, and this one is no doubt at all. It is terrestrial, but many Ridelia are epiphytic. This one is terrestrial, and the flower is very beautiful. The tube is white, and the extremity is a bright pink. So it is in many individuals around us. Here it's a patch of this Ridelia.
Here, at the edge of the forest, we see a tall ginger. So we could think, of course, like Hedychium, Alpinia, etc. But actually, I see here the inflorescence on this stem. And no doubt at all, this is a Ridelia, the genus Ridelia, so endemic of New Guinea, and a little bit Maluku and Solomon Island, but really New Guinea. Yesterday we have seen a very small terrestrial species with pink flowers, and this one has very beautiful white flowers. We see the shape of the flower, which is characteristic of the genus Ridelia, so different from Alpinia and the other related genera. And this, I think, maybe is one of the species which is quite easy to identify. I think it's maybe Ridelia lanata or something like that, but we see clearly the shape, particular shape of the flower with the lobes, with the petal lobes under, like this, and at the upper part, we see clearly the stigma ending here, emerging from the stamen. So there is one stamen on the stigma with a style emerging from the stamen. So the hanging inflorescence, it's quite strange because, yes, these are old flowers, so now young maturing fruits, and all these are the flower buds which will be opening later. It's a little bit like small bananas. And here we see the bracts, the brown bracts, quite dry, which were protecting the inflorescence when it was young. I see actually the infructescence of the Ridelia. We did see the flowers, and here we clearly see the mature bright orange fruits, so they are standing upward on the recurved structure of this Ridelia. Probably when we look at the seeds, it has orange fruits. Oh yes, and we see some red pulp on the small seeds. Here we see small green seeds of the Ridelia, and there is some bright red pulp inside. We can see, not so easy to open, but we see the red color inside. Qu'est-ce que ça ressemble aux conifères quand on voit ça? It's funny because the structure along the main stem is very similar to the conifer we have seen to the Papuacedrus papuana. It's really the same architectural pattern as in the conifer, while here it's a Lycopodium. The big leaves and very, very small scale leaves on the top of the stem, on the larger one, which are in a plane. So we see all of these pseudolateral stems of this climbing Lycopodium, and they are really well spreading and displaying the foliage for the photosynthesis. So from here we see the inflorescence of the heptapleurome. So first we see that this heptapleurome actually is monocolous. It has only one stem, and the inflorescence is really a huge, much branched inflorescence terminal, and probably it will be a relaying shoot, a relaying stem appearing just after under the inflorescence. But it's very, very surprising to see a so much branched inflorescence on the stem actually bearing these lateral flowering branches is very thick also, so strange. This dark pink, red flower, tubular flower, curved with the curved tube of the corolla, no doubt with the opposite leaves. It's an Escullentus, and we know actually that there are so many species of Escullentus in New Guinea, both in Papua New Guinea, of course, and here in Papua. So we see the foliage characteristic with the opposite leaves, and so the corolla. It's a species with quite small leaves, this one, and so Gesneriaceae, so the three genera, Escullentus mostly epiphytic, Agalmilla mostly climbing, and Syrtandra mostly shrubby or herbaceous at the soil. So the three genera of Gesneriaceae are occupying mostly different areas in the forest, so they have different biological types. So another species of Zingiberaceae family. It has small leaves, so it's very shiny. It could look like a Ridelia, but actually we see here the flower, so it's not a Ridelia. It is probably an Alpinia. We did see already at low altitude other species quite similar to this, a little bit bigger. One was white, the other bright pink. This one is very elegant because it is a translucent, very pale pink color. Another small ginger, but this one is a Ridelia. We see clearly the inflorescence. It's a young inflorescence, still protected by the bract. So after the bract will disappear, exposing the flower buds, which will be opening. So it's a group of Ridelia with small flowers and a quite short corolla. But same as quite often in Ridelia, a good contrast between the base of the flower and the top of the flower, contrast of color. So we see another individual of the Ridelia, but here the flowers are more emerging from the protecting spot. This spot has a little blade at the top. So here we see actually the fruits, and these are the fruits, of course, of the ginger, but due to the capsule, which is opening like this with the valves, the red valves, around the 3 red valves, and just exposing the bright orange structure in the middle. So this is a Ridelia, this is the fruits of the small Ridelia, and inside the pulp, I take the seeds are embedded inside this bright orange pulp. The seeds are this small yellow spherical structure embedded in the pulp. This pulp is probably due to expansion, arilla-like expansion of the seeds. Along this trunk we see the stems of the Esculentus totally covered with the bright pink, dark pink flowers, mostly hanging under the foliage, just as we can see here. But what's interesting is that we see that actually it is an epiphytic species, but it is a climbing epiphyte. We see the main stem climbing along the trunk, height up to 3 meters, and maybe it will grow still more, so it is fixed with the small roots. It is not fixed to the soil, so it's a climbing epiphyte. And when I say not fixed to the soil, actually maybe it's not so simple, because I see quite big stems, so it seems actually that it is connected to the soil. So we can consider it is actually a hemi-epiphyte and not strictly an epiphyte totally without connection with the soil. So here we see clearly that the stem is connected to the ground, and it is thicker and thicker. We see almost 1 centimeter thick, so it means actually it is a hemi-epiphyte and not strictly an epiphyte. We see the same Ridelia, but now the flowers are much more developed. The inflorescence is still protected by the bracts. I can remove the bracts, it's easier to see clearly the flowers. And we see the structure of the flower. So we see the dark pink ovary at the base, the ovary. Then we see the orange calyx, the long orange calyx, and the tubular flower, which is itself the corolla just emerging from the calyx. So we have pink, orange, yellow, and pink again. So it's quite funny to see the 2 times the same pink color separated by the orange color. A low epiphytic orchid, but the color is incredible. It's totally bright pink, more than bright. It's translucent, a little bit reflecting totally the light. Incredible. And also what is strange, it's the shape of the flower is a little bit similar to the flowers of the ginger, of the Ridelia ginger. We see a long tube of one color, and at the top the flowers of another color. So, of course, orchids and Zingiberaceae are not connected, but here in New Guinea, there are this convergence of forms between these 2 families. And we see also that the flowers are appearing on the old stems without leaves, because the leafy stems are these stems we can see here. So, characteristic of Dendrobium, because so many Dendrobium species in New Guinea. So we see the leafy stem, and after, when it's caducous, the flowers are appearing on these stems without leaves. So the flowers are perfectly exposed to the pollinators. So here we see the fruits of the Ridelia. So the capsular fruits are bright red, not yet open, and we see that when it opens, they are revealing the orange pulp, but also at this stage is very beautiful because it's ripe, but not yet fully ripe because not yet open. So it's a fleshy capsule. It's between the berry and the capsule, but it remains quite fleshy. And one more species of Ridelia. We see this clump on a dead log, so in some way it is epiphytic, a very low epiphyte. And this Ridelia actually has white flowers, very long tube, inflorescence with quite few flowers, and very long yellowish, whitish, yellowish tube, and the corolla is open. Actually, the flower is totally open at this stage. So it's not as spectacular as some other Ridelia, but it's interesting to see one more species here in this area. So here in this mossy forest along the trunk, we see a small climbing creature, and when we see at the top the arrangement of the leaves, it is a Fresinecia. So it is a small Fresinecia. Of course, this is a young stage, but most probably it will remain a small species of Fresinecia because we can see all sizes in Fresinecia from the very small ones till the biggest one we did see already before. We did see what is probably the smallest Fresinecia in Papua New Guinea, which is Fresinecia elegantula, but this one is probably also a very small species. When I look at this pinkish grey flower of ginger, I think it could be maybe an alpinia, but when I look at the fruit, I'm very surprised to see this very long cylindrical hanging fruit with a long peduncle, so it's hanging freely and moving like this. Probably it will be opening, revealing the seeds. We see there are some costas, some ridges along the fruit, so I'm very intrigued. And here I see another one which is maybe younger, which is yellowish, or on the contrary maybe older, but same structure. So obviously it's really the normal structure of this fruit, and it's very strange because the peduncle is totally flat. We see clearly the flat structure of the peduncle. So very strange. I did not think that Alpinia could have this type of fruit. So maybe it's another genus because there are some other genera of Zingiberaceae in New Guinea. This small shrub probably will become a big tree because according to the shape and venation of the leaves and branching pattern by three like this, I see it is a Podocarpus, so a conifer, a Podocarpus, and the young copper orange leaves are very beautiful, but probably it will become one of the giants of this forest. Of course, it's a mountain forest, not very high. Maybe most trees are 12, 15 meters tall, not more, but it's normal because it is an altitude forest. Here I see a plant which is very intriguing for me, a plant climbing. We see it everywhere it climbs. I did think it was a ficus, but it's not a ficus. It is climbing. It has alternate leaves, maybe a climbing ericacea. But we should know, maybe it becomes a big liana. I can say nothing, but it has already lateral stems. So if it has already lateral plesiotropic stems, it seems it is able to have already the adult stage. So I suspect it doesn't become a huge plant. This treelet has a very elegant foliage. We see these totally pectinate structures, and it's narrow, very narrow leaves. Totally, all the leaves are in a totally flat plane. And actually, this is a Podocarpus, Podocarpus sensulato, of course. And it's a juvenile foliage, and we see already here the adult foliage is appearing at the top of these stems. So there are quite many different Podocarpus and also some Dacrydium exhibiting this metamorphosis of the foliage between the juvenile foliage and the adult foliage. But here, the juvenile is incredibly beautiful, a little bit like asparagus, but much more elegant than asparagus. So this bright pink inflorescence actually is the inflorescence of an epiphytic species of a Schefflera. It's usual to have these heptaplerum, which are epiphytes, but not so common to see them flowering. On this one is because it's growing at about 10 meters above the soil. So it's not surprising to have a heptaplerum like this, but not so easy to see them from the soil. Actually, this stem belongs to a liana. The structure, the corky structure, is very, very strange and falling in small parts. Climbing, of course, we don't see the height, but I'm intrigued by this structure because we can think about inflorescence, flagelliflorus inflorescence, or stolon. I should like to see one reaching the forest floor like this one. Ah, yes, and we see, oh yeah, there are leaves, tendrils, so it's a Vitaceae, most probably a tetrastigma. We see the tendril fixing this branch. So these are stolons of this tetrastigma. So the stolons are climbing, creeping on the forest floor very far, giving a new plant. So it is most probably a tetrastigma in the Vitaceae, or another genus, most probably a tetrastigma, which is a host, as we know, of the Rafflesia. But it's very efficient vegetative propagation. These emerging stolon axillary with nodes. So nodes have only cataphyls, and then going down to the forest floor, creeping and producing some leaves and the tendrils opposite to the leaves, which are characteristic of the Vitaceae. This leaf has just only one leaflet because the other one's broken. But anyway, so we see that these stolons are very efficient because I see this one, for instance, is very thick and growing very, very far. I don't see the end, and probably it is climbing. Yes, when I move like this, I see it comes from very, very far. So it's very efficient vegetative propagation. We see that. So this small shrub actually is also the young stage of a Podocarpus, another species of Podocarpus with much shorter leaves, but we see already the branching pattern characteristic with 3 stems emerging at the same group of leaves. So it's like verticillate branching, it's pseudo-verticillate branching, and it will become probably a big, big tree. These pandanus are incredibly high, I think probably 25 meters high, something like that. And it's strange because the trunk is totally straight and we see branching only in the last part, very high, and we don't see scars along the trunk, so it means that probably it's monocolous till something like 15 meters or something like that. Here we see the construction like a hut, like a house, and actually this is the construction of the bowerbird, and so the all elements fitting this dome and totally empty an entrance. And what is incredible is to see all the colored elements, so all the plastic elements you can find in the forest around. Usually when before human beings were here with plastic, they did use blue fruits or blue flowers or pink, because also red, pink, orange colors are very attractive. But now, thanks to human beings for them and to civilization, now they use a lot of plastic because these very bright colors are supposed to be very attractive for the females, because this is actually the area to attract the females. And it's not a nest, not at all a nest, it's an area to attract the female, and after the nest is in another place, and the nest is not at all a structure like this one. And we listen the bird, the bowerbird, because he's not happy that we stay here.